The pull and release is so effective to solve your horse's problems. Most methods I've seen over the years are a form of trying to restrain the horse when you try and hold it tight to worm him, or tie him up short because you need to trim his ear, or um, hold the horse firm to pick up his feet, but they're all a form of restraints, where the pull and release is allowing the horse to make the decision that it's more comfortable standing here accepting the spray bottle than rather running away where it's uncomfortable. I had a lady say to me one day that the pull and release looks very harsh. She hadn't been to one of my clinics, so she didn't really know. And then that same lady tied her horse up, and the horse pulled back and broke a big clip, and that is 10 times more pressure than the horse will ever put on when you do your pull and release. So ask yourself, next time you're handling your horse, am I restraining him to solve the problem, or am I allowing him to make the decision himself? This young buckskin was introduced to the spray bottle while tied up, pulled back, and then thought it was the spray bottle that hurt him. So let's have a look at some clips on how we solve these problems. Here I'm demonstrating just following the horse, but it doesn't really work. I've seen a lot of people put a horse in a small area and then just follow the horse and just keep bombarding him with the thing he's scared of. And after a while you might have a little bit of success in the fact that you might be able to do it, but then when the vet comes along or the farrier, the horse is starting to panic again. So the idea of the pull and release is to teach the horse that where this comfort zone is. Like I've mentioned before, a horse has a great need of a comfort zone. So the idea is that when they move away, stop the spray, do a pull and release, put the horse back in position, reward him for being in position, until eventually he gets the idea running away from the spray bottle is uncomfortable. But don't forget, originally this horse was tied up and he pulled back and hurt himself when the spray bottle came towards him, so now he's thinking it's the spray bottle that's going to hurt him. So it does take some time to overcome that fear. And like I said before, this will really help this horse, the way he pulls back and rears up. It'll help him that eventually when he's tied up, not to panic, but to come forward to release the pressure. Watching this horse just reminds me about another incident. It's quite a few years ago. This thoroughbred cross come to one of my clinics, and his problem was that he's always shying, very nervous about things. And we started doing some of the steps with him, and I picked up a plastic bag on the end of the whip and just went to rustle it a bit. I didn't even scare him with it. Well, he sort of reared up in the air and lunged for it and struck at it and spun around and kicked at it and took off around the paddock. And anyway, the lady that owned the horse said, I don't know whether I want to put him through so much pressure. You know, he's 15-year-old and he's really been scared. And I said, well, this horse has really been scared with something. She said, yeah, well, I know. The guy that broke him in for me tied plastic bags to the saddle in the round yard. So this terrified the 2-year-old. So for 14 years this horse has been living in terror that one day he's going to come across this plastic bag again. And I said to the lady that we'll probably have to put him through some pressure with the pull and release, but your horse will be really grateful to you if you work on this. So anyway, she decided to give it a go, and I went down there and done about 6 lessons, and like I said, eventually the horse didn't run away. He just stood there cow kicking at the plastic bag, and every time he run away I just drop it and do the pull and release, bring him back. Anyway, we finally got the horse to the stage where he started bending around and looking at it and investigating it and slowly overcoming that fear. And she rang me up about 2 months later after we finished the lessons and said, I can't believe the change in my horse. He now sees a plastic bag, he'll go straight over the top of it when I'm riding him, doesn't care about it. And just things like putting his skinny hood up over his head when he's eating, he doesn't care. He feels a big issue. So I just can't believe the change in my horse's attitude just from doing the pull and release and teaching him to stand still and accept that plastic bag. So work on that pull and release. you'll have some marvellous results. This lesson took about an hour, but you can already see quite a big change in the horse's attitude, starting to work out that he's safe standing still. This horse also had a issue with floating. By the second day, the floating wasn't a problem at all. And I noticed in the next 2 days, everything that horse done was just so much more confident and relaxed. The owner was amazed how calm her horse become, and she didn't really have to lunge it at all. Lunging only stirs them up, especially if you just chase them around in circles. So spend a little bit of time teaching them the pull and release, which teaches them to stand still. Remember this 5-year-old Arab stallion that had quite an issue with being wormed. Every time you just tried to touch his mouth, he'd really flick his head up and do a lot of pull and release. Now, it would have been quite easy just to try and twitch him or sideline him or tie him up short or tranquilise him, but that doesn't really solve the problem. I just had an instance the other day where a lady rang me and she's got a horse that's got a really badly cut back leg, and the vet had to knock him out and stitch it all up, and every week's been coming back and changing the bandages, and he's got to the stage where he's had to give him so much tranquilizer and keep twitching, and the horse is really fighting and trying to kick it at him when he's trying to treat the leg. So I went down the other day and just spent probably half an hour just doing the pull and release and just teaching him that I can touch your leg and stuff, and he was quite wary. He's had so many needles and stuff. But by the end of the session, the vet had put the new bandage on, and the lady commented how calm and much easier this was. And the vet said to me he was really getting worried because he was having to give him so much tranquilizer just to try and keep him a bit still, but it was actually making the horse fight more and more. So don't teach him to fight, just teach him that you want to just touch his mouth, and when he resists you, just move away, do a little pull and release, put him back in position, reward him for being in position, start again. The best thing I like about the pull and release is that the horse stays calm all the time. He never seems to get all agitated and nervous and sweaty. So the more you do the pull and release, the quieter they become. The interesting part about the stallion, that everything else we done was really calm, like doing his feet and stuff like that. And this was all done in the same lessons we done that worming, and you can see the difference. So it's obviously just man-made. Okay, it's been 6 weeks since we've wormed him last and done the handling, so let's just see a little bit what he's like when we do this lesson. Remember last lesson there we had a problem with the worming, touching his mouth, he was quite resistant, so we'll run back through that again. It's a really good feeling when you haven't touched your horse for about 6 weeks and you come back after we had such a big issue with the worming, how much calmer he is, allowing me to put fingers in his mouth without him flicking that head up in the air. He's not 100% yet. You can see the neck muscles a little bit tense there, head come up a little bit, but that's still a big improvement. And I think you do your horse a big favour if you can show him this so that he eventually doesn't get any pressure. Everything's nice and calm and there is no more pull and release. It's just nice to see when them horses learn to really stand still and relax and accept you. big improvement on that. Alright, we need to warm up. As you can see, you don't need to keep repeating this once you've taught the horse with the pull and release. He learns that out of that, he learns to stand still. Remember last time he was really throwing his head around. But this time, there was still a little bit of resistance there, but just so much different. And that was 6 weeks ago when we wormed him. I haven't done a lot of handling with him since that. So you can see how that pull and release does work. Turn that off. This horse had a really big issue putting the bridle on and off, and working with the pull and release and teaching him to stand still and lower his head, eventually overcome that fear. It did take quite some time for him to realise we were going to hurt him. I'd say somebody tied him down to put a bridle on. It's been something with the rope they've done. Pretty scared about it, isn't he?
Yeah, I know.
Did you get a bit of that action?
Yes. I saw him going that time.
So here, you probably have to have your lead wound up and just use this part of the lead.
Yep.
There he goes, let him go, and pull him release. The further away he goes, the better, right? And he starts thinking, oh, that didn't work real good. And this will also help him when you're riding him, and that he learns when he gets a fright is not to actually panic and run away.
Yep.
So, now, here, he's allowing me to do a little bit. So rather than trying to get 100% and go right up to his ears, we say, well, that's good. Put your hand down because you accepted me there. Just holding your hand and now play with him and get him to lower his head. That's it, and get him to bend, or even get him to lower it. So keep that bit underneath him a little bit more. Keep it under his mouth a bit, that's it. Alright, now just get him to lower his head first, and then see if he can get it sort of in line with his lips. That's it, bend his head right around, that's good. Good. Don't pull on the bit too much, play with his mouth a little bit and see if you can get him to, if you put your thumb in the corner of his mouth there, and see if you can get him to do that chewing. That's it. Yeah, just with on your side, just stick your thumb or your finger into the corner of his mouth. And just sort of do that chewing a little bit. We're going to go into a lot more detail with this horse in the next DVD. How we teach him to relax and lower his head, and we've already shown you quite a bit how we work on the mouth, but slowly we'll show you how we overcome this horse, because this horse was that scared about that bridle going in his mouth or going up over his ears. It took quite a bit of time to convince him. And mainly today we're just showing you some clips here on horses that needed quite a bit of pull and release, and how beneficial it is for the horse in the long run. Probably just put the near side here on first, might be a bit easier. That's it. coming a lot better. As you get to do all these steps and get him to lower his head and relax a bit, he'll slowly get the idea that he doesn't need to panic with it, you know. Remember this AF stadium was shown professionally. The handler got it home, couldn't do much with it. And it was just showing a few clips on here how he was just totally out of his tree. Just like he's having a mental breakdown. And showing a little bit with Barbara doing the pull and release to eventually get a horse that was calm and relaxed. And you can see Barbara didn't intimidate him. She's done the pull and release. When he come back, she rewarded him, and eventually he just relaxed and learned to accept that and realised that he was in no danger. So it's always nice to see these endings with these horses.
You don't want them to go now, do you?
That's one thing I like about the abs, you know, when you win their confidence, they really enjoy your company.
I'd like a colt like this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's better. See that time he didn't do all that stuff? So you can see how you just, and see now he's starting to yawn around you. That's a good sign actually. Because all of a sudden he's let his guard down.
He's beautiful.
Yeah. As you can see, this gelding is very nippy, and the owner was always told to run him backwards and sort of intimidate him with a body or drive him around circles, get that control. It's there how he just gave me a little nip on the ear, so I just stepped away, done a bit of a pull and release. It's also had a bit of an issue with tying up. You could see how he tends to lean back, so this will help the tying up problem. And the second time he just smelt my ear, so I just left him alone. I like my horses in my space as long as they don't bite or get pushy. Right, like I said, a lot of people will say to you, oh, run them backwards and show them who's the boss, but I find it never works. Every time they get a bit nervous and excited, they want to bite. Right? So I say to them, nah, we're not going to attack you, but we're going to move away and really do that pull and release. Okay? Right. This young colt has never really been taught to stand still. Would have just had his feet picked up and somebody's probably hang on to his legs, so he's learned to do all of that snatching and shaking and walking away. He's not trying to be nasty with it, but he's just never been taught how to stand still. See, when he does that, yeah, go. Pull and release. Uncomfortable, good. Quietly turn him back the way he was. Back into that same position. Forward. Try it again. So you can see with a few little pull and release how the horse is quite happy then standing still. But if you never spend time teaching him where this comfort zone is, he never gets to learn. But you can see, look at the horse's expression, he's quite happy thinking, that's all they had to teach me, is to stand still. Simple. Now he's starting to think a bit about it. This horse would panic when he heard loud noises. Allowing him to run away from it, doing a pull and release, very quickly corrected his problem. And the horse was so much more relaxed once he learned to stand still. This horse had learned to buck from being broken in incorrectly, and we often get told that we need to really lunge these horses to get control. I think lunging will just compound the problem. especially the way most people lunge is where they just chase the horse around circles. As you can see, this horse is just running away from the handler. So the idea is to teach him to stand still through the pull and release and slowly get his confidence back that he's in no danger when you try and get on his back. You can see with a little bit of work doing the steps and the pull and release how this horse totally relaxed, and I think he was quite glad that I spent that time teaching him how he could overcome this fear. Horses don't really want to buck, it's just a fear thing. So work on your pull and release. You'll have some fantastic results. Here's an example with a young filly, how gentle you can do the pull and release.
See there? So just go with her and just do a little pull and release and just say no. But there's no real pressure there. So she's got to work that out for herself.
She also had a little issue with her feet, which was corrected very quickly with the pull and release.
But see, if she pulls out my hand, people think, oh, look, she's picked it up a bit, so that's all right. And I said, no. That's a little bit uncomfortable. Pull and release. Don't hang on to it. Give a second to think about it. Good girl. Even go back and say, good girl, you're doing it really good. And go back to the leg. Say, up. Good girl. There. And then put it back down again. See? It was just a split second, but she didn't fight it, see?
This foal's quite nippy from having the halter put on too early. I like to do a bit of facing up with my foals. So there is no pull and release when I handle my foal. Just watch this other foal here.
And don't pull on that, just to try and go with a little bit. Like I said, if she panicked a bit, that rope would probably pull out. But I just go around with a little bit, just show, look, it's not going to hurt. All you have to do is just stand still. There we go, good go. And we'll go back and reward her. Good go. Run that up over hindquarter again. And just untangle it. See how they, with the facing up, after all they go, well, I don't need to panic. If I just stand still, I'm safe, see? Yeah. But that's not their natural. If they were to take would you drop the rope? No, I wouldn't drop it. I would just pull it out of that. That's why I don't like to actually attach it, all right? But I would just, in an area like this, as long as your rope's long enough, you could actually do with a slightly longer rope than this one. The second one I got's a bit longer than that. I would just sort of follow them around like I did there. Because as soon as I pull, that's when they get panicky. They feel it wrap around their bum. But if you just sort of follow them, normally you find they'll walk around and they go, oh, that's not so bad, I'll just stop, you know. Yeah. Good girl. Good. What a clever girl. Clever girl. Clever little.
Information on my DVDs, my book, my halters, leads, etc. Look on my website www.johnchatterton.com.au. Also look out for my foal handling DVD and winning DVD, and we'll see you in the next DVD on step 6 and 7.